You are listening to Ace Comicals. My name's Greg. Today I'm joined by my co-host Leon. Let's get started. It's episode 21. We meet in the woods, bring forth the sacrifices, offerings in the name of his dark lordship, and what wonderful offerings they are indeed. Samhain, October 31st, Halloween, All Hallows Eve, whatever you prefer to call it, we have a list here of reading that will get you through it. Chilling tales to be read by light of jack-o'-lantern. Just don't forget to check your candy apples for razor blades. Tonight, I, High Priest Greg, am joined by devoted disciple of darkness, Leon Everett. Yeah, ignore those muffled scratchings and screams and yelling that you can hear coming from the freshly filled grave to your left. That's just Rahul. Seems he was still alive when we buried him. So we have a list of reading here that we've been doing in honour of the fact that it is going to be Halloween. So these are a few sort of spooky tales that we thought, well, that we enjoyed, that we thought you might enjoy to read during Halloween as something to sort of like just get yourself in the mood for it kind of thing. And what a list it is, man, yeah. We've got some stuff on here that's recent, like brand new recent, as in this week recent, as in week of recording recent. And we've got some stuff that's been going on for a while, but I guess this is now the time to talk about it. So, first on the list is the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. So, most of you will know Sabrina the Teenage Witch as Melissa Joan Hart from your childhood. Your childhood Sabrina, this is not. Let's just get that out there straight away. So this has got like this real sort of like late 60s, early 70s horror vibe about it because that's when it's set. But it's also like the artwork and it's the whole mood of Satanic Panic. Even the artwork carries it because it's like old school horror movie poster. We've got Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa as the writer, and Robert Hack is the artist on this one. And Robert Hack drew and coloured it. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. I love this kind of like grindhouse poster thing that it's got going on. You know, this like monster movie horror double feature thing. And the fact that every single page as well, like just upon opening it, you instantly know that this is a book that is about Halloween. Like it's every, you know, it's muted shades of orange. It's all shades of orange and dead leaves and you know, it's just, I think it's a beautiful, beautiful book. So Leon, what are your first impressions?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I remember hearing about this book a while back. And thinking about, oh yeah, I should get around to reading that because I was like this time last year, I was getting back into a lot of Archie Comics in the run up to the Riverdale show that was going to air on the CW and Netflix the following January, I believe. And so I was geared up and I was like going back down memory lane. I was reading like Archie, Afterlife of Archie, and all that, and I was really getting into it and reading up on the lore and seeing what these characters had been up to. And then this one was being mentioned to me, and I thought, yeah, I should put this on the list. Then completely didn't get around to it. And then you brought it up the other day, and I thought, oh yeah, let me check that out. And then saw the writer, and the writer, Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa, he is the chief creative officer at Archie Comics, and he's sort of been there leading the revival of these sort of newer, fresher takes on the Archie archetypes and characters. And he is like the showrunner on the CW Riverdale show. So going into it, I was thinking I didn't know what to expect. I thought it might have been in the tone of the show, which is a very like campy mystery soap, but it fully knows what it's doing, and it's cheesy in parts with a winking nod, and there's a big love of like old cinema in it. Every episode is named after an old film.
It's almost Twin Peaksy, the show, isn't it?
Yeah, like it's got echoes of that as well, and it's taken some of the best bits of like sort of the good teen shows in the last 20 years and sort of condensed that into there and like other like family dramas. So it's been quite interesting, and it's been nice to see like fan favorite characters showing up and like having a nice 21st century twist to them, but not in the typical and this character does this now. They're kind of still true to their characters. They're just what they'd be like if they were in 2017. So it's quite interesting, and I really like what he's doing with that show. And it started off, I was thinking, it's my guilty pleasure, but now it's just my pleasure. So like going in, I was wondering, is the tone of this book going to be similar? But whoa, it's dark.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
dark. It is. Straight off the bat, this is Rosemary's Baby. Like, this is what happens. Like, this is a sequel to Rosemary's Baby. Like, we're finding out what happens to that baby as we go up, and it's brutally, it's like occultist AF. Like, wow, they like knocked me back like quite a lot, and
yeah,
it does so many good things. Like in the earlier issues, it's like its use of like panel framing, and there's like a really good in the first issue, really good panel where a character goes into a room and what's there is not what the character was expecting, and the room is completely dark, but the only light is the illuminated doorway with him standing in it, and a crib that's illuminated, and it's so beautiful. Like, it's just such a good use of negative space, and it really sort of pushes you in the direction of like what's going on in the story and the importance of certain characters and the hollowness of some of this.
Yeah, it just completely instills dread. It's what that panel is designed to do. That panel is pure dread.
Yeah,
and it's like, you know, when you wake up and you're in a dark room and the light's on outside, and just as you open your eyes, there's kind of like a fuzziness, and you can pick out shapes in the light.
Yeah.
And then, that's that kind of feeling about it. Like, I can imagine, like, if you're just waking up and you see that, like, your eyes adjusting to the light, because the door's been flung open.
But yeah, it's so striking and directed, and some of the lines in it are just great. Like at the beginning, as certain characters just talking about themselves, and they're like, blah blah blah, scholar, occultist, father, and it's like it's so like dramatic in an old sense, but then it really hits that sort of weird sort of bouncy 60s exploration, and there's a lot of especially at the beginning, a lot of use of sort of not knowing what your past is, and sort of like digging deeper and finding out more about yourself, but also some of the core sort Sabrina and other teen things where it's dealing with being like a teenage girl and having these feelings and emotions, and there's a lot of like metaphor that and a lot of subtle metaphor that's not quite like on the nose, which I quite like. And there's nothing really preachy or crazy. There's just like a really cool sort of through line going throughout, and it's just you're getting this really cool watercolor paint style artwork that really puts you in that era, but this like magical, witchy, satanic era, which is really good, an interesting take on this character, and I love that it's period and not set now. It's that whole like Satanic Panic thing, you know, like because if you like kind of the mood back then with regards to, I mean, more I'm thinking about this more in like rock music terms, so with like Black Sabbath and stuff like that, you know, people late 60s, early 70s, playing records backwards, and all that. It kind of nails all those cliches, because it has all the like the sort of cliche occult stuff that you hear about, like the whole like when you know, like Dummy's Guide to How to Worship Satan thing. It's got like it's like all those like sort of like cliches kind of nailed and down, but it does them in a way that still that it brings them in like a really fresh way. In like all the, you know, like when you watch like these old like occult B movies or whatever, and they hit certain points, and certain things will always happen,
And
the very early sort of video nasty era.
yeah. But I don't know about video nasty, more like B-movie horrors.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, video nasty's probably like, they're more the, I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't say video nasty. I'd say more kind of in the lines of, these kind of like the creep show double feature things that you can now buy on DVD for $5 or whatever.
Yeah.
And you've got Blu-ray as well, because Arrow have done like releases of films that are similar. But you've got like the whole, this sort of like, it's not, how do I put this? It does the thing that witchcraft stories do like ever so well, and that's like it is a discussion of female sexuality without being, like you said, overly preachy and things like that. Yeah, which I really enjoy about it.
I think it handles that stuff really well, and like I just think the panel construction and composition and the visual storytelling is just really cool. It really works, and it leaves me hopeful for what Sabrina is going to be like in the Riverdale show, considering it's the same showrunner. So I'm not expecting the same thing, because obviously it's set now, but I'm expecting a really dark take, because it's funny, I never really read much Sabrina. I think I'd read the odd strip of the book, and that's obviously very bouncy and 60s, and obviously I watched the show as a kid. But then when we were first introduced to her aunts, like, whoa, that's like whiplash, because they are like pretty harsh.
Zelda and Hilda, cannibals.
It is brutal, but I'm really loving this book, and it's
one of the things that I really loved about that, the whole cannibal thing, is that, like, you know, when they sit down to dinner, do you think Sabrina's eating people as well?
Well, I think it's a bit of like a Hannibal thing, isn't it? It's like, I mean, maybe they're just preparing it really well. I mean, using those witch spices is probably pretty good. And
it's the whole like, but normalization of it, you know, like, because she's been brought up in that.
But it's like a culture, isn't it? It's like cultural upbringing and different traditions. And I love how it's sort of done that, where when they move to Greendale, it's all about, there's a coven there. It's like there's a community there. Like there's like usually like different community people from different communities or cultures. Like when they move to a city, they want to be around. They want to like dig in and see what like. Or what the Jamaican culture's there, if they're Jamaican, or the Polish culture, like they want to have that type of somewhere. So they're not just being dropped in the deep end. They want to have some sort of bonding, and I kind of like the way they use the covens in that way. Like, there's a coven in Greendale. But
it's like
it's head over here,
and the way they do like the whole worship thing and whatever, and it's like the same way people who are Christian would observe Christianity, but totally flipped.
Yeah, it's
like the complete opposite side of the coin, the way it's written in this book, and I really like it like that. I think it fits well.
Yeah, no, it's a book I definitely would recommend. I've only read a few of the beginning issues, and there's a couple more to read. It boils down to a few trades, doesn't it?
It's 2 trade. I think there's 1 trade, and then the second trade should be out in December.
Okay, I thought it's like, is it like 7 issues or something? 8 issues?
Yeah, there's only this first trade, I think, is 6 issues.
Okay, because I think I've read 4 issues of it, so I've not got much to go. But I'd highly recommend this. It's a really, really good read, and
I mean, I think it's because it suffered from scheduling issues and stuff. Big style, but it's such a really good book, and I think now is a good
time to jump on it. Definitely this season, and it's a really good read, and it's a nice book to look at, but it reads really quickly as well. It's not it's really clear in its pacing and story construction, which I quite like. It's not confusing. Or like doesn't sort of spin your head in circles. So this is an easy recommend for me, but this is right up my alley. So
I think it's actually the first 5. Looking at its 5 chapters, but I don't mean, because I've not been following it that way. I've just bought the trade. But I'm waiting for I'll wait for the second trade. I will buy the second trade. I need to get Afterlife of Archie as well.
That's good.
Afterlife with Archie is like, this is kind of a follow on from that. And that's in a similar vein, which
I think this was the beginning of Aguirre-Sacasa sort of trying to reinvent them, as I was mentioning before, and I think that it was the Afterlife of Archie and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina were like the first sort of the first wave of him putting his mark on it.
It's totally my thing. Like the spectre of Halloween runs all the way through it, and it's just like, as we've already said, Robert Hack's art is like completely beautiful, and the slow burning dread that like Aguirre-Sacasa had is just brilliant. And you do want to listen to Black Sabbath when you're reading it. it's like you're like, I want to. This is something where you read it. You're like, I want to sling on some Doom while I'm reading this. You know, it's got that real feel about it. I really do like it. So on to our next book, which I've read, which is a recent one. It's Mike Mignola and Warwick Johnson Cadwell. This was only out last week, so week of recording being like New Comic Book Day was 10/25, so last week that was the 18th. So this was out on the 18th of October, and this is called Mr. Higgins Comes Home. Now, this is like a kind of a love letter to like the old Hammer horrors. So like these, you know, these great monster movies, like the old Dracula films and whatever else, and it's like Hammer horror infused with like more wit. So it's got like this kind of like comic line running through it. It's a really great story, but it's like it's horror. It's like a horror, but there's also like an edge of comedy to it, and it's got real heart as well. In the way that some of these characters, like, because it's only a short story, but like the arc of the character through the short story, and the way that it plays out, it's really nice. It's really nice, but it's this bit of a sad ending, but it's really nice. So it's like, as I say, it's not just vampires versus werewolves. It's much more than that, and the art is also great for the tone of the book because the art reminds you that it's a comic. And I like the way the art sort of plays up to the fact that the story isn't so serious. It's a horror story, but it's not such a serious horror story. It's kind of campy because you've got like this vampire count and his wife, and you've got this pair of like monster hunters and slayers that are obviously looking to take down this vampire count and his wife. They've been like traveling, and they're making their way up to. They've got a plan to take this guy out, and this plan involves this guy who was turned into a werewolf by the vampire, who he's now really depressed because he hates being a werewolf. He wants to die, basically, and they're going to use him. The plan is to use him to lead them to the crypt so they can put a stake through this vampire's heart. But obviously, it all goes a little bit pear-shaped. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I recommend... Because you wanted to read this, Leon, didn't you? But I don't think you managed to get the chance.
Yeah, it was on my list, but I was looking in the wrong place for like dates of release, and I was like, it's out later, and then I'm like, oh no, it's actually out now. So this will be one that I probably catch up with this weekend because I'm going to be reading a lot of stuff, continuing some of the stuff that I've started, and keep myself in the Halloween mood. So this one's definitely on the list.
It's like it's like a Hammer horror movie with like, you know, traditional Slayer vampire, and what would happen. Like they get invited to dinner at this vampire's like castle or whatever, but there's also like a meeting of vampires going on at the same time, and I think they plan to kill the Slayers, but it kind of like goes pear-shaped and gets tipped on its head.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, Mignola usually brings the goods, so it's always nice to see tackling something.
No, this is a good one. It's a very pretty hardback as well. I like it. The cover, it's very dark, black, with like kind of like the outside of the like the outside front door maybe to the castle or citadel where this vampire might live, with like a sort of like gargoyle-esque crest above it with a bat, and then there's like a shadowy figure in the doorway with like a red light behind him. So it's a really nice cover on there as well, and yeah, it's just super enjoyable to read, and it's a short story, and you can get through it so quick, but it's just so like you do it, and it's not the cut. You wouldn't read half, then put it down, then you'd read the whole thing all the way through, start to finish. Because sometimes even though they are short, you get these kind of like one-shotty 80-100 page books, and you're like, I read part of it, put it down for a bit or whatever.
Yeah.
But this is one that I went all the way through all in one. So it's definitely it's something that it's like sort of like the traditional monsters and traditional horror type stories that you would probably be used to from old films and things. It's the kind of thing that would keep you in the Halloween mood, so it's one for the list. After this, there's one that I bought this week, so out on the 25th, which is it's another Archie comic. It's Jughead, The Hunger, #1. So this plays with the idea that Jughead is actually a werewolf, and the best way to describe this is if the Sabrina book we just described is doom metal and makes you want to listen to doom, things like Sabbath and whatever, then a like slow, heavy chug that the Sabrina book has, this Jughead book is the Misfits. So this is like you'd want to listen to Halloween punk songs while reading this. It's basically, this is a follow-on from a previous story where Jughead was turned into a werewolf, and Betty and Archie are now hunting him down because Betty's family is like a family of werewolf hunters that apparently have been so for generations. So we've got them, Jughead's now gone on the run, we've got them hunting Jughead. He's joined the circus in this, and he's trying everything he can to stop himself from doing harm when he turns into a werewolf. He's like chaining himself down at night and stuff, which is kind of like I don't know, have you ever seen Ginger Snap?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you know the whole thing where obviously that's like a thinly veiled metaphor for drugs, but the whole thing.
That story element or the film?
The story element in the film, Ginger Snap. But the film, yeah, it's like but the way in which she's trying to stop herself from becoming a werewolf.
Because I would say the metaphor for that film as well is also like womanhood and like puberty and adolescence and all that.
Yeah, I'm going on the fact that when she's trying to stop herself from becoming a werewolf, so I'm like that plot device where she doesn't want to be a werewolf and she's injecting, is it nightshade or something?
Yeah. Something along those lines.
Yeah, and she's in rehab. Yeah, but it's like that, but as where she's trying to solve it. It's like that whole idea of a werewolf that doesn't want to be a werewolf, and they just, which again is visited in Mr. Higgins as well. I guess that's kind of like a running line with werewolves. They don't want to be werewolves. They don't remember what they've done when they've turned into werewolves, and they just cause trouble. And they wake up covered in blood, and it's scary. And Jughead's in pretty much the same boat. He's like, he knows he's killed people and he's done horrible things. But there's something else going on at the same time, because one of his victims, who happens to be Reggie Mantle,
oh gosh,
is also now a werewolf because he survives an attack from Jughead. So he's in there now as well. And by the end of the first issue, he's out again as a werewolf and turns up at Ronnie's house, turns up at Veronica's front door. So yeah, it's and then that's like where it leaves it on a cliffhanger at the end of issue 1. So I'm interested to see where that goes. But yeah,
who's responsible for this one?
We've got artist is Pat and Tim Kennedy, so two people like splitting the art duties, and story is Frank Thierry. Colours is Matt Herms, and got inks by Bob Smith and Jim Amash, lettering by Jack Morelli. So it's got like quite a big team behind it.
Yeah,
but it's really good. It's really good. I was really enjoying that one. So the other one that we've got here is one that we both read, isn't it? Which is the DC House of Horror. This was also out 25th of October. So this is like out the same day as the Jughead book. So this is also on the stands.
Yeah, this one's so fresh. I've only read 3 of the stories from it.
Yeah.
Out of the 8. But I'm going to complete it this weekend.
So it's 8 short tales set within the DC universe or using DC characters. Overall, it's a great read, but I think certain stories were stronger than others. Like, I mean, they're all good concepts, but there's some stories that I just don't think... Maybe it's because they have to be so short to fit in within the constraints of an anthology like this. Or maybe it's just the fact that, I don't know, they just don't seem... They just fall flat as horror stories. They're good stories, but they just fall flat as horror stories, I guess.
Yeah, I know what you mean completely.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's... My favourites here, there was a Harley Quinn tale where Harley is like an apparition or a figment of some dude's imagination, making him go on a killing spree, which I think is really good and really psychological. I got really into that one. That's probably one of my favorite, like my favorite one from the whole book, actually.
Yeah, out of the three that I've read, Crazy for You, the Harley story, written by Brian Smith and Brian Keane, and the art by Carl Baker, that was my favorite of the three because it has this really cool theme, and it sticks with it, and it starts off like quite dark, and there's a nice sort of grey area between the supernatural and psychosis. So I really like the sort of commentary we get from Harley, and all the crazed imagery and the back and forth between like the timelines. It makes use of the constraints of being such a short story, and it leaves you wanting more in a good way, not in a was that it? So yeah, out of the three, it was the one I enjoyed the most so far. It
does that well. The other one that I really liked was the Wonder Woman story, because that kind of feels like a horror story in the fact that young girls playing with a Ouija board then get possessed by one of them. Then gets possessed by the spirit of an Amazon, which we see manifest as Wonder Woman, but we don't know if that's just like. I mean, this story could work even if it wasn't Wonder Woman, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some things to say about this one. So this one's called Man's World, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the writer was Mary San Giovanni, and the artist was Bilquis Evely, and the colours were done by Matt Lopez. And with this one, this one is quite interesting for me because there's bits that I really love. Like, I really love the concept of it and how it handles certain things. So there's bits where, like, the commentary on the people she encounters and the brutal end they get is quite interesting. It reminds me slightly of the sort of French exploitation revenge movies we were getting at the turn of the century, like Baise-Moi and what's it called? It's got two names. I can't remember. I'll put it in the show notes. But there was a couple around that time where these weird sort of hyper-violent, hyper-real type movies about women who sort of were pushed to the end through various abuses, and then they just flip it and turn back and have full control of.
Do you mean things like I Spit on Your Grave?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. And like they're full, like taking back their like agency and their sort of sexual power as well. So it's quite interesting viewing it through that lens, because it does really feel like that. And like the Wonder Woman link is quite tenuous, but it's quite an interesting one. Reminds me a lot of the film Under the Skin in some ways, which has some visual, not really visual motifs, but some surface level similarities between it, with the whole woman sort of stalking around a city and like everyone pretty much being a target. So yeah, like that stuff I really liked about it. I mean, but this is one that where it ended, it left me wanting more, but in a I haven't had enough yet. It just sort of cut off.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting idea,
but it ended too quickly.
Yeah, and like I kind of like the whole thing of like let your inner Wonder Woman take control, which is pretty funny. And I love the use of like the contrasting of colors between the scenes, because this one messes with timelines as well. And you have like the main character with the friends playing with the Ouija board, and there's some nice, cool, like purples and blues and nice color. And then when you cut to the the street stalking, like it's very
orange red. It's like it's like hot and cold contrast.
Yeah,
because you've got like cold palette and then hot palette in between, the difference in the panels.
Yeah, and they do some cool stuff with like speech bubbles that like part of me doesn't know if I love and part of me really likes. So I love like the stuff with all the friends about and there's no tails on the speech bubbles. That stuff's interesting because it works in a really cool sort of, this person's on screen talking and it's like reactionary, but then that sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. But on the other hand, there's like a cool use of it's a great panel with the two faces of characters in one panel, sort of half and half, and the aggressive character is saying something, but it just sort of fades away in the speech bubble, and it's like she's not listening anymore. Boom, and it's really effective. I found. But yeah, it's a weird one because I like at first when I read this, I was a bit disappointing in some ways because there was a lot of stuff that I really liked, but then it just ends. But I mean, thinking back on it, it's I feel a bit more warm towards it. I just wished there was more, or it constructed itself so that the end felt like an end, because it sort of just happens, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. It needs more of a more closure, I think is the word we're looking for. It needs more closure on it, because it just feels like that's like another part of the movie, and then this is going to there's going to be another thing after that.
Yeah, it feels really issue one. That's the thing.
Yeah, it feels like that they should, that should carry on, and I don't. Yeah, I think that would have been better as like a full length. Maybe if that had the whole 80 pages to itself or something. I don't know, but probably not in the space of a short story. I mean, it's but in hindsight, I can see what you mean. Yeah, it needs more space. I think that one does, to truly kind of spread its wings, because that was a good story. The other one that I really liked, there was a Batman one, and that's another psychological one that plays with the idea that Batman isn't Batman, and he's just nuts. Like everything that he thinks he's doing for the greater good, when you view it through the lens of the comic books and you see him dressed as Batman, taking villains down and being really heroic and whatever, and then like it kind of puts another lens over it, and actually he's just beating people to death with an iron bar in the street with a mask on. And it's like, it's like... That
sounds like Batman.
Yeah, but it's like, it's kind of like the flip of it, and that Batman is actually the Joker. And it's like a really interesting concept, the way they play it off, like it's one guy with split personality disorder playing both characters, and he's wrestling with the idea that, like, this is the story is him coming to the realization that he is both people. And
that's cool.
Wrestling with the idea about what he will have to do to defeat his final foe, his greatest foe. Okay,
now that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Because I read the first three. So the first one, I mentioned the second two. The first one was Bump in the Night, which is a Superman story.
Yeah.
And that one is just so weird because, I mean, the writer's Edward Lee and the art's done by Howard Porter and the colours are done by someone called Hi-Fi. And I really like the super monster design because this is weird. It's sort of like a retelling of Superman landing in the Kent farm.
Superman's origin gone wrong.
Yeah, but it's weird because so like he lands, and what we're getting at the time is the inner thoughts of like Martha Kent, who's wondering where Jonathan is, and she's like, "Oh, there's a fire there. I can't be bothered to check that out. I'll wait until Jonathan comes back. Why isn't he answering his phone? He's probably wittering on with someone." Then she starts hearing like bumps in the house and stuff. And there isn't really a story to this one, or even a theme or whatever. Instead, it's just Super Monster ruthlessly attacking Martha for all of the pages, and it's brutal. And there's not really any. It's
brutal animalistic monster movie type thing, but again, it needs more. It needs to be a full monster movie. You can't just show me the first 15 minutes of a monster movie,
or even like there's no sort of like when you get to the end of it doesn't feel like there's a point. It's just like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if Super Baby or whatever like ruthlessly attacked Martha Kent. And it's just a really odd book. I mean, the only thing I can see that it was linking to is the whole sort of slasher movie or monster chasing the lone woman around archetype.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like it's going for. But it's just weird. Like, there's no, usually in those movies, there's like the person's being chased, but then they do some silly stuff, but then they also do some inventive stuff, and they're trying to outrun the thing.
But no, this is just brutal. Like,
yeah, it's just brutal. Like, I don't really know what purpose it was serving, other than wouldn't it be cool if? And it's like, I don't know. Like, it's odd, and also it has like such a bad line that just took me out of the book, where like after some dealing with the initial attack and stuff, a character just says, character's like, da 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 da, and it's like, definitely a Trump administration. I was like,
yeah, no.
Oh my god, like, why? Like, it just takes you out of the book immediately, because it just doesn't really fit. It's such a clunker.
Quickly, we need to make the story relevant. We need to add a line to do that. What do we do?
But it's just not done in an artful way at all.
It's not. It's really not.
Doesn't really comment on anything interesting. Like, why would you do that?
That's definitely one of the weaker ones of the book. 100%. Because, I mean, there are some good ones, but there are some pretty weak ones as well that I wasn't that into. One of the other stronger ones that I really liked was the Batman story, which was The Last Laugh, which is the one that I mentioned before. That I was just talking about. And I should mention the team behind that, because we've got... the writer is Nick Cutter, artist Rags Morales, colorist Laverne Kinzereski, and letterer Wes Abbott. And that is a really good. It's a really good short story, actually. That is another one that works really well within the constraints of the short story. The other one that I thought kind of fell a little bit flat was the Green Lantern one, which was just like a zombie story. It wasn't. It was just a zombie story. It's just DC zombies. It's just, you know.
That's sad. I mean,
yeah.
I'll give it a read, and I might report in future on what I thought of the rest of the book. But
yeah. I mean, like, it's not. I'd still say it's worth picking up, if not just for the three stories that I've mentioned. The Last Laugh, the Wonder Woman one, which was Man's World, and the crazy Harley story, Crazy for You. Yeah, the other ones aren't like, they're all right, but they're not great. They feel like they're just filling the rest of the book for those three.
I really like the cover of the whole thing.
I like the cover. Yeah, it's a nod to sort of classic monsters. You've got Wonder Woman's I don't know. Is she a siren?
I think she's on, but she looks just cool with her like fiddle or violin, and she looks as boss.
She's like a ghost of some kind, like a wraith or something. And then you've got
Superman. Looks like he's melting. He looks like Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah. She's sitting on the shoulders of Frankenstein's Superman. And then you've got like the Flash as a werewolf getting bitten by vampire Batman, because what else would Batman be? And then at the bottom of it all, you've got zombie Green Lantern. Getting melted on by a candle, which I think it's a really nice cover. I like the cover, definitely.
I mean, what I'll say broadly on it, and what seems to be a theme of some of the stuff we've been reading this week, is that whatever the case, even like when they fail, it is really nice and interesting to see these different liberal takes on these sort of archetype characters. Like, these are like, a lot of these are American history in some way. They've been around for so long. So it's nice to see like DC and Archie Comics taking risks and just allowing some flights of fancy. Just having
fun with it, and just getting into the season, you know.
And just the reckless abandon and saying, yeah, cool, like, this is the IP, do something crazy. And I quite like it. No,
I'm really into that. And what I want to say, actually, going back to Sabrina regarding that, actually, before we move on to the last book, is the fact that I mentioned the whole Satanic Panic thing, and back when these types of stories were being made, like, this is being made in the style of, and back when these original tales were being made for cinema or books and whatever, they would be made as cautionary tales, where it would be like a cautionary tale, like, oh, don't get involved in this, kind of thing, like, because the whole mood at the time was that people were scared of this stuff, and it was a very real fear for parents that their kids were listening to this heavy metal records and they were getting influenced and worshipping Satan inadvertently and things like that,
and the reefer madness and the rock and roll.
Yeah, and it's it's taking that idea and completely, again, flipping the coin, and it's like, it's okay, it's okay to be into this. It's actually kind of cool. Like, it's taking the whole Satanic Panic thing and saying the Satanic Panic thing is okay, I guess. Like, the things that people were scared of, and then telling you that they're actually, telling you that it's normal and it's okay to be, this is like something that they're advertising instead of being a cautionary tale against it.
Yeah, Greg, it's totally fine to eat people.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm not a cannibal.
Things have come along so far. Now we can just eat people and be good with it.
Yeah,
If prepared well.
Just people walking down the street and there's me in my dressing gown carving a pentagram into a torso. No one cares.
We've come so far.
Yeah, I can openly practice witchcraft. No. So yeah, on to the last book that we've read, which is another witchy one, actually. It's another period piece. It's set in the 1920s, I think. And this is Harrow County, and we're talking about the first arc, or the first graphic novel, first trade. The title being Countless Haints. Now, haint is actually like southern slang in America for ghost, so Countless Haints is just countless ghosts. But the way this book's written and the place in which it's set, it uses a lot of southern slang, and you could, like, a lot of southern dialect in the way the characters talk, which I think is really cool, first of all. And I really enjoyed this. It's like an off-kilter children's book in the way that it's set up, because it's got like this beautiful watercolor artwork, and it looks really innocent, and it's like, in places it looks really innocent and everything, and it's really nice artwork, and it's really like non-threatening. And then all of a sudden things start to get weird, and this very same non-threatening artwork becomes very threatening, and the watercolors are used to great effect in panels to illustrate ghosts, monster, and like haints, I guess we'll call them haints, beasts, and of all sorts of nature and weird happenings. And I think it's really cool.
It's a book that, especially that first issue, it opens so strong. Like, it's such a cool sort of this is the history type thing, and like the artwork, like you're saying, it's like watercolor sort of felt marker in a way. So the colors, like, there's a lot of like muted earthy tones, but then in like one thing, it's not really like, so say like a tree looks like it has like 6 or 7 shades in it, and it just looks so detailed and so crisp. But it doesn't have this hyper realistic look that I like. People are still quite stylized to a degree, and like you say, in that children's book, like the artwork on the cover or in the pages of a children's book style. But it's done so well that everything sort of feeds into each other. So like the framing feels very cinematic, and paired with that style and that style of coloring, and just the detail in the pencils and the inks on like backgrounds in rooms and on characters' faces and bodies, it's really effective in pulling you into that world immediately, and it builds this like central lore really early. And then when we join the lead character, we're like taken deeper into, almost literally taken deeper and deeper into this world. And the way they set up a lot of like later mysteries with just like side characters and their exchanges to each other, they're not super descriptive or wordy in in how they used. Instead, it's more nods that open up the world quite a bit without being fairly like didactic or on the nose. So I really like how it does this, and it's even though it handles like supernatural stuff, it doesn't skimp on like the psychological toll or the psychological horror and just the atmosphere and tone. So there's a lot to love in this book so far.
Yeah, no, it's a gorgeous book, and I love, like you were saying, I love the way that it's set in the 1920s. I love the it's like watching an apple slowly turn rotten in front of you, like the way this story burns out. You know, you just know something's wrong from the get-go because of the way it opens, but then like you have to watch it get wronger and wronger. Yeah,
and there's a lot of cool sort of visual metaphors and motifs, like the tree that was like sort of rotting, and they filled with like concrete.
I love that.
It's such a creepy element to this thing, and how it just like weighs on the central character's mind really early. It's
the nightmares
done
she
so
has.
well.
Yeah, and the way they illustrate the nightmares as well. Like it is watercolor. It is all watercolor, and it's beautiful for it. Like I think the watercolor works so well, especially in the way that the monsters are, because they ghosts. They're just like such inventive ways of displaying like what's going on. Like you've got like you've got a skinless kid. And you've got like his skin as like two separate characters, which I thought was kind of cool. And the way that that's sort of illustrated and done, the way that works out is really good. And yeah, I just want to know where this goes next. I just want the second book now, because I just thought it was brilliant, and it's another like brilliant sort of coming of age witchy story in a similar vein to the Sabrina one that we read.
Yeah, and like even the art styles aren't too far removed from each other.
Yeah, and just
something about it. Like, why does that watercolor style work so well in this type of dread horror book?
I don't know. I mean, I'd say when you say they're not so far apart, I'd say this has got more innocence about it than Sabrina does, because Sabrina book actually just looks like old horror movie posters.
Yeah, I would say so, but I just mean sort of like the texture.
Yeah.
Like the surface of everything, and some of the detail, and
I think
the way shading is used.
I think it's because you can illustrate the ethereal better with watercolors than you can with like flat like Copics or something like that, or you know, digital art. It's hard to create something like that with digital art.
So would you say that the watercolor style is more visually descriptive?
Yeah, in terms of when you're going for like the supernatural, definitely, because you can make things look ghostly. You can get more into it, I think, using watercolors than you can. You can fit more into an image using watercolors than you can if you colored it in digitally. Because this is me just being me, but I always think digital art looks a little bit cold and a little bit too clean cut sometimes. I mean, especially for a horror story, I think digital art would be too clean and too cold. I think you need something that looks a little bit dirty.
I mean, I guess it depends on the style that the artist is using, because I think there's a lot of tools and talent these days where there's a lot of things where I think, oh, that looks so cool. It's like really cool sort of analog style. And it's like, nope, that was digital. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there are. I mean, there is such a thing as called, you know, digital art is cool, and digital art can be very, very good. I'm not saying digital art's terrible or anything along those lines. All I'm saying is, like, for horror stories, I think if you use watercolors or something like that as a medium instead, you get a better atmosphere off it.
Yeah, I guess it pulls you into the world more. There's
for horror stories anyway.
Yeah, there's less of an artifice maybe because we just have an innate relationship with like watercolor and like hand painted
yeah.
art. Maybe there's just especially because a lot of children's art, like children's story art, is done that way as well. Maybe we just have this unconscious thing where we link those things, and it makes it more unsettling.
Maybe, yeah, especially with Harrow County, I think that comes across. But I like the way that, as I was saying before, that you can use watercolors to illustrate the ethereal, and you can make things look menacing because you can make them fade into everything else. And, you know, that thing that instead of just appearing in one part of the page is now everywhere and is everywhere effortlessly. If that makes sense. Like you can fade something into the shadow with watercolors, and it would look much more effective than if you did it digitally. That's just my take on it anyway. That's how I see it. But yeah, and this book as well, like, as well as it being, as we've mentioned, like the innocence of the artwork contrasts with the story, or the darkness. It's like, in some places, the imagery is actually genuinely disturbing. Like some of the things you see in it, like I mentioned, the skinless boy, and there's like other parts as well where it's like the art. There's things in there that I thought were genuinely kind of like just sort of turned me a little.
Yeah, there's a really good panel which also makes really good use of the color, where earlier on, where a witch is sort of burnt and but still talking, and you just like that image of the face burning and melting while like intense and angry is really effective.
No, yeah, I'm into this book and I need book 2. So yeah, that was Harrow County, Countless Haints, and I guess that brings us to an end of what we read this week. So that was your Halloween reading list. I hope you go away, read some of that, enjoy it. Things coming out November the 1st, so the day after Halloween. So these are things that we thought that we're interested in, that we thought you might be interested in. So we've got Usagi Yojimbo 163, Batman number 34, which is now, we're out of the War of Jokes and Riddles, we're now into a new arc, which is basically the world dealing with the fact that Batman's marrying Catwoman, and Batman has gone to tell Talia about it, and we're going to see how that plays out. We've got Batman the White Knight number 2, which, if you listen to our previous podcast, we liked it, so buy it because it's great. It's a really good spin on Batman. Dastardly and Muttley number 3, which we've been enjoying. Deadman number 1, it's like a new Deadman arc or a new Deadman story. So yeah, that might be quite interesting. I'm looking forward to that. Might pick that up. Batman the Devastator, which is part of the Metal event. This is the Batman. Looks like Batman has been messing around with the Doomsday stuff. So this is like Batman X Doomsday. This is like the Superman one. So if each of the Metal Dark Knights so far has had a mirror in the Justice League, this is the Superman one. We had the this week, actually, I should mention, we had the Wonder Woman one, which was Batman the Merciless. We've got Optimus Prime 12. So we've got TMNT Ghostbusters number 2. Now that starts on November 1st. So this is like a sequel to a previous Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ghostbusters crossover by the same team, the brilliant Ghostbusters team that have done a lot of the current Ghostbusters stuff so far, and that's Eric Burnham and Dan Schooning. We've also got Elsewhere number 4, Extremity number 8. Extremity is a fantastic book, and if you're not already reading it, why not? New book called Gravediggers Union that looks quite interesting. That's another horror story. Yeah, I'm looking at it. I'll read it. If I do read it, I'll tell you guys what I think. Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man number 6, which again we're quite loving at the moment, and another brilliant new horror story called The Willows. Brilliant looking new horror story set around the Danube, the River Danube, so Hungary and Austria. So yeah, that's the list of things coming out November 1st that we're pretty much we're looking forward to. Anything that you'd add to that list, Leon?
No, not particularly. I mean, there's things that I will be picking up to continue that you've mentioned, and on the new stuff, I will see what you say about some of those new stuff. It's interesting the amount of new and good horror books we've had this year.
I know, it's been a really good year for it. I think
we've spoke about this before, where we hit on it. It's like it feels just like the current climate has been very good for like horror story.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned it, and you've mentioned it. Like, what's going on currently in the world is giving people something to bounce off and write these brilliant books. So yeah, it's been quite an interesting year for it, and it's not over yet by the looks of things. So on to the questions from the multiverse. So questions this week, we've got 2. We have a question from James, who has sent us questions previously, and this time James asks us, if you were trapped on a small island, which comic creation is the last thing you'd want hunting you? So where do we go with this? There's so many things that I would not want hunting me from comic books.
And that's the thing, it depends what you would weigh as the worst end of this. Because it doesn't always end in death, and it could just be a horrible situation that you'd be stuck in when they caught up with you.
I mean, like, the obvious ones that come to mind are, like, supervillains that have tracking abilities and stuff. So, like, Sabretooth, or Kraven the Hunter, or even people like Batman.
Or like the Punisher.
Yeah, the Punisher, yeah. Ooh, being hunted by the Punisher, that'd be scary. He's nuts. I mean, who else? Like, I'm trying to think of like some kind of like feral beast with tracking abilities, because that'd be the scariest thing, being hunted by something truly primal.
See,
you could reason with someone like the Punisher. You could reason with him, because if you hadn't actually committed a crime, he wouldn't kill you.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't reason with a beast.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I was thinking about this, and there's a lot of ones where it would be pretty horrible. I was thinking about the X-Men and how a lot of them would be horrible, and I settled on Mystique being pretty bad, because the thing that Mystique can do, if she's had some info on you and she's got a good read on you, then she can hunt you. But when she catches up with you, it's not going to be a case where she'll like straight away like kill you or anything. Instead, she's going to mess you up, so she can change into your like dead family members, or like horrors from your like nightmares or from your youth, and she could just taunt you constantly while you're going insane from being on an island. Because I'm assumed if we're trapped on this island and we crashed on it, and it's like Lost, we can't communicate with the outside world. And if Raven's there, Raven Dark, she could just play with your mind and like slowly just drive you insane faster than you would normally being trapped on an island like that. And I think that terror, like, I mean, when the Punisher catches up to you or Kraven, you're dead.
Yeah.
So you're out. I mean, he carries big guns. Kraven has some decent weapons. Like, a lot of these people will just take you out straight away. But Mystique, she could mess with you and like just like twist and twist and twist until you probably take yourself out.
See, my thing, because you could still hide from Mystique.
Nah, she'd find you, and then she would turn into you,
and
then make you think that you're not real, you're the doppelganger, and she's the real. Like, she could do some horrible things to you.
But the thing is, like, she doesn't have the tracking abilities. She doesn't have the, like, it's not like you're trying to run from someone like Sabretooth, for example, who, let's Sabretooth's a psychopath, and he is like the most feral. He's like Wolverine without morals. So, being chased by Sabretooth, I think, is worse, because you can't escape from Sabretooth, because he can smell you. Mystique can't smell you. You can hide from Mystique. You can't hide from Sabretooth.
But at least when he catches you, it's a quick end.
I guess. Yeah, you're right there. It depends what he decides to do to you, doesn't it? I mean, he could be incredibly painful. Because
there are some other like crazy scenarios with that, because he could sort of catch up to you and then maul you but not kill you. So he could, maybe it's not as clean cut.
he could like skin you or keep you alive. And oh god, yeah, no.
Well, there's others that would just be like, I don't want to hang around with you. Like, if they're hunting because they don't want to be alone and talk, and it's like, go away. People like Cyclops. I don't want to chat to you, Cyclops. I have my side of the island, you have your side of the island. Leave me alone.
Get in the water, Cyclops, and stay there.
Yeah, fry some fish with your eyes, but otherwise, come on, man. Go away.
Being stuck on, so if we're like, this has gone from being hunted to being stuck on an island with. So yeah, no, I wouldn't want to be stuck on an island with Cyclops. I'm still trying to think of like creations where I wouldn't want to be hunted by them. Like the worst one, because it's hard to think of the worst one because they're all pretty bad. Like anyone that would hunt you on an island, it's all pretty bad.
I think Deadpool would be mega annoying. I'd hate that.
Oh, that would just be irritating, yeah.
Yeah, he would hunt you, and then when he catches up to you, it's just quip and fourth wall breaking. It's like, shut up, man, and just kill me.
Yeah, but you die pretty quickly. You'd probably have to endure like three or four speech bubbles, and then you'd be dead.
Yeah. But I think that would be horrible.
But you can still reason with Deadpool. You see, that's the thing.
Can you?
Yeah.
I guess
he's deep down he's a good man, and unless he's got like a really good reason to kill you, like because there's even been times where he's passed up money because he doesn't agree with what he's doing, because he isn't deep down he isn't a bad guy. He's just he's a mercenary, but he's not heartless. So I don't know.
Rorschach would be a downer.
Oh god, yeah, getting hunted by Rorschach.
You're already on an island thinking you're going to die, and then he just has to make it real. Now
there's a man you can't reason with. You can't reason with Rorschach, so you would be dead if he caught you. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be, it's like a tie between Sabretooth, Rorschach, and Mystique. Mystique for the psychological reasons, Sabretooth because he's just like a feral beast, and Rorschach because he's just so unreasoning and just dogged and just horrible.
Island with all three, that is just a nightmare.
They'd kill each other before they got to you.
Well, if they had a pact to like drive you insane and kill you first.
True. Don't give Hollywood ideas.
James, this is horrible.
So next question comes from Rahul, and Rahul says, to celebrate the upcoming Thor movie, which has been released actually on recording, I think it's out now, which comic book character would you subject to a lifetime of being Mjolnir, i.e. being exactly who they are, just wielded by Thor, like a mallet and flung around everywhere? So I'm thinking...
Who are you thinking?
You see, the way I imagine this, rather than them being flung about like the hammer, their consciousness being stuck in the hammer and they have to endure it, and like they'd feel pain when they hit stuff. So this has gone from me thinking who I would put in that position
to punish.
Yeah, to who I can actually see in that position as part of a weirdo comic storyline. So, again, Deadpool, because that's the kind of thing. This is like one of two ways. It's either going to be like a really silly Deadpool story where, through some kind of weird black magic or whatever, Deadpool gets stuck in Thor's hammer, and the hammer's constantly talking, and Thor's getting irritated by it. Like Thor just getting mad at his hammer and then throwing his hammer at a bad guy, kind of thing. But the hammer's Deadpool, and the hammer's just constantly breaking the fourth wall.
Oh god.
And while Doctor Strange is working on a way to reverse the process, and not liking the fact that he has to do it. Thor constantly saying this is not a team up as well, because Deadpool will insist it's a team up, and Thor will say no, it's not. You've got the other one I can think of would be Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, and that is because he's so whiny sometimes, like Peter Parker. So Peter Parker being stuck as Thor's hammer, and like all the internal monologuing, like why me, why am I a hammer kind of stuff, as he's been.
But then you get all the quips when he hits people in the head. Yeah,
it would be and then again, Doctor Strange is working on getting him out of the hammer, but it's more serious than if Deadpool was involved. I don't know. It's one of those two. So Spider-Man or Deadpool.
See, mine. I was trying to think, like, who'd be good, who deserves it, or whatever, and then I had a brainwave.
Who deserves it? Shinji Ikari.
No. Thor.
Thor as Thor's hammer.
Yes. Put him in the hammer, and then make the hammer a person, Vision style. And then revenge from being tossed around willy-nilly and whacked left, right, and centre, and having various unworthy people try and clutch and pick it up for years and years.
I'm imagining the comic cover now, the mighty Mjolnir.
Yes.
And he's wielding Thor.
But I want him to have like a quite dour, sarcastic personality.
Yeah, like really aloof as well. Dour, sarcastic, but really aloof. Like constantly pointing out Thor's stupidity. That would be great.
Yeah. I want him to be like Marvin, the paranoid android from Hitchhiker's Guide. Just like, oh, it's like finally granted like sentient life, but he doesn't really enjoy it at all.
Yeah, Thor as Thor's hammer. That's quite good. And Mjolnir as a living, breathing. Yeah. Yeah,
because the thing with Thor as well, he's so sort of flowery and like he speaks Shakespearean in some ways, like, and it'd just be funny if him was like he's like so noble and honor bound, but so if he had that in hammer form, but while he was getting flung about and whacked and spun around to fly in the air, while like Mjolnir is in human form, just like, yeah, this is okay, I guess. Don't see what the big deal is.
Dangly arms and legs and stuff, just like. But like you've got like the way Thor is anyway. He has the personality of a weapon, if that makes sense. So like you know, like when you get talking swords in comics and stuff, they're like Thor anyway.
That's true.
Always like battle obsessed and like. They talk like Thor does. They use like this kind of like high old English kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of it feeds into that anyway, that Thor would be the hammer and Mjolnir would be. Would he have a hammer shaped head though, Mjolnir?
Oh, he has to, and it has to be oversized, like Marvin in the Hitchhiker's movie. It needs to be a massive hammer head.
And he constantly gets sore shoulders from having a huge hammer-sized head. No, yeah, that would be good. I can go with your answer as the best answer there, because mine would just be making someone really annoying as the hammer, so the hammer's super annoying. Like that's why I was thinking Deadpool or Spider-Man, because Spider-Man can be annoying sometimes.
Well, you're so salty on Spider-Man these days.
I'm not salty on Spider-Man. I like Spectacular Spider-Man. That's a good book, you know, but. I can't help but think that he's a little bit whiny sometimes.
You're just done with Peter's shit.
Yeah, he just sometimes he deserves to be thrown at a bad guy really hard.
So stop whining, Peter.
Oh my god, Peter, just shut the fuck up. You just want to slap him. No, but yeah, so I guess that brings us to the end of the show. So that has been the Ace Comicals All Hallows Eve-isode. You can find us on Facebook at Ace Comicals. You can find us at www.acecomicals.com, which is kind of the hub for everything. You'll have a link to the Twitter at Ace Comicals. There's a link to our Instagram, where you can find us as Ace Comicals. You can find us on iTunes under Ace Comicals. You can find us on your favourite podcatcher app. I'm pretty sure just search for Ace Comicals will be there. You will be able to find us on WordPress, acecomicals.wordpress.com. And you can find me on Twitter under @Bato, so you can submit a question there, or you can submit a question via the Ace Comicals Gmail account, which is acecomicals.gmail.com.
Hit us up.
Yeah, send us a question and we'll answer it on the next show. Leon, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Leon Everett.
Yep, and if you want to ask questions or ask Leon anything, if you submit to the Ace Comicals box, then I can forward it on to him.
Yeah, give us something some wild and crazy.
Yeah, give us some nutty questions. We love your questions, guys. Yeah, so that's been the Ace Comicals Halloween-isode. Enjoy Halloween. Ace Comicals, over and out.